get myself right up on out of here. I feel like a disgrace, I'm not really what I appear. I go home to my girl and I make nicey nice. The fact that she don't know that I just put someone on. I don't like being here. I constantly live in fear. Could be gone at any time. When you live a life of crime, you have to face the music and do the time.
Welcome everyone to Mayhemtainment. I am your host JD, and I have a very special new guest for you all this evening. I have Oliver Williams, who is a manager for wrestlers, except he is in the independent circuit. And please go follow him on Facebook and on TikTok. He's looking to get some more traffic to his social media. So please follow him on Facebook and TikTok, and make sure you leave a comment and tell him Mayhem Media sent you. You can also check out our storefront, bonfire.com/store/JDE Designs. That's with a Z at the end of it. Pick up some apparel, and you can also follow us. All our episodes, we're on Facebook, YouTube, and Rumble. Please go and hit the subscribe button and share out some episodes. Oliver Williams, welcome to Mayhem Media and Mayhemtainment.
Thank you for having me.
So you're a wrestling manager. You're not a performer in the ring per se, but you're a manager. And I'm glad to have you on because I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. The first is what managers can be very, very important with certain wrestlers, and I think they provide some excellent addition to the wrestling world. What do you see? What is your job as a manager? Since you're an actual manager and I'm just a guy watching, what is your job as a manager?
It varies from clientele to clientele. I mean, There are some that you have a mic piece for, kind of like the Paul Heymans of the world. And then you have other people who are similar to like Bobby Heenan, who just cheat to get their clientele to the top of the mountain in order to hold on to a title. The main focus is that the fans know that you're there, but you're not taken away from the match as well. So it's trying to find that happy medium on who you are as a character and how you play into the story.
So that part's similar to a wrestler, finding the character of the manager. Now, do you do a little bit of everything? Do you manage people who need a mouthpiece? Do you manage people who maybe don't need the mouthpiece, but just need that, who don't, or not even necessarily need, but just it enhances by just being there and having, the bad guy manager, or just someone who's coaching them and stuff from the sideline? Have you done all of it, or do you just kind of focus on one or the other?
For the promotion I'm working for this Friday, Northern Lights, I'm a mouthpiece for the wrestler. But at All Out Pro Wrestling in Wisconsin, I am just there to kind of help them cheat and help the person win. And right now, my main focus is Matthias, who is currently holding the championship.
Okay, and so you work with a couple of different companies as often in the independents, right?
Yeah.
Now, so one of your clients has a belt right now, or is going for the belt?
Matthias has the belt, and he is out of Wisconsin for All Out Pro. This Friday, my other client that I'm the mouthpiece for, El Tigre, is currently holding one belt for NWC, which is a lucha promotion, and is going for the NOW belt on Friday, where unfortunately I have to be handcuffed to a person by the name of, the owner of Northern Lights, Gene Gadasky.
Okay, well, that'll be fun, I'm sure. So you get involved a little bit, and you're not just the mouthpiece or the cheerleader or the guy who will cheat to help them win, but you get involved too with like some of these specialty matches or whatever, where you're handcuffed. Or do you do any in-ring work?
I used to do some referee work. That's how I actually got my start. But I since retired because I had a bunch of health concerns that made it to where I can no longer keep dropping down and popping back up. I was one point at like almost 500 pounds. That's then I lost like 100 pounds.
That's great.
Yeah. The shirt used to be like this on me, and now it's looser than all get out.
Yeah.
But
okay, go ahead. Yeah.
I miss being in the ring, but I don't miss the bumps in the ring that I would have to take it.
Well, the manager's got to be a nice, like you can still be involved then, but then you don't necessarily have to be taking the bumps and stuff that you would in a referee capacity.
Correct. So a lot more creative freedom.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, please. You're the guest. If I anytime you're talking, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut so that people can hear what you have to say. They're here to see you, I would hope, not me. So now you were a referee, so that's great. Do you mind if I ask you about that?
Go ahead.
Something that I have noticed recently, and a lot of fans I think have been noticed, and they've been calling out the referees on is, and I don't know if you've seen it or not, but referees actually helping with spots where they'll prevent a wrestler from getting injured, or they'll hold a table, or they'll hold a ladder. Do you, in my opinion, I think that's what they're there for. They're a referee. They're there to call the match. They're there to be impartial. But at this point, kayfabe is dead. Everybody knows that wrestling is not. It's fixed. It's not fake. I don't like the word fake. Okay, where outcomes are determined, but the bumps, the stunts that the wrestlers do are not fake. They're very real. And I think the referee's job is just as much keeping the wrestlers safe as it is being the job of the referee in terms of the show. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it's appropriate for a referee to get involved to prevent a wrestler from getting injured, and do you think it's appropriate for them to get involved to ensure, like holding a ladder or holding a table steady?
Okay, when it comes to the table portion, the table has four legs that are normally nice and stiff, so they should be able to go through that no issue. I want to bring up an old federation that I used to work for, EWI, out of North Dakota. I did a match with Daredevil, Derek Fury, and Chris Chaos. It was a ladder match, kind of like a TLC more than a ladder match. But the ladder on and in the middle of a ring, you have to think that you have like little bumps and stuff because underneath that ring is boards.
Yeah.
So those shift an awful lot. So when you have someone climbing a ladder and someone moving around the ring, those boards are gonna end up popping up a little bit as you're walking. So to keep that ladder from falling, you kind of have to hold on to it a little bit. And that's just so they don't fall from like 6 to 10 feet, because if you hit your head on like the rope per se, that could kill you.
Yeah.
As a fan portion, I would say, the main portion I don't like about some referees is the sweeping of the arm. When they're going for the count, it's like 1, 2, and then you could see them tucking their arm.
Gotcha. Okay.
That gives away in general because of the fact that it should be consistent every time. It doesn't matter if it's a 2 count or a 3 count. You're going to want to go 1, 2, 3, not 1, 2 sweep. It's something that I just am very picky about. And also oversell. You see a few people in the business where they will tend to oversell like a big maneuver. You can tell that they're jumping. 9 times out of 10, if you're working in a ring, and if you're thin or even a big guy like me, if a guy does a maneuver correctly, you're going to naturally jump up.
Oh, I see.
You don't have to force that to happen.
Okay, you're talking about like when the referees kind of like hop in the ring after an off the top rope maneuver or something like that to try and sell like the impact in the ring.
I mean, I can see kind of going like this, like, holy crap, what the f- has happened? But to jump, it's like, again, if you're a thin person, naturally jump. If you're a heavier person, just sell the move to the crowd.
Yeah.
And if they go, just kind of like be like 1, 2, and once they're like, if it's a kick out, just kind of be like 2 and just look all shocked and everything. That plays into how big the maneuver is, because you have to think, after they take like a superplex from the freaking top rope, they're going to be hurting for quite a few minutes, and if they don't breathe right, that's also going to knock the wind out of them. So you buy them a little bit of time to recuperate to get into that next move. See, a lot of people like the fast pace of wrestling.
Yeah.
So if you slow it down, it's a heck of a lot nicer, and the fans like it just as much.
Yes. You just said a lot of stuff there, and I want to talk about some of it. The referees selling the moves. That's one thing. I think I've noticed that more than in the 90s. I grew up in the, I kind of grew up on wrestling in the late 80s, early 90s, and then through the Monday Night Wars. That's where the heart of my wrestling knowledge and everything comes from. That's where I became a real fan. And I have to say that referees reacting in the ring, it's not necessarily a new thing, but I kind of liked how some of the referees have evolved, like with their reactions. I mean, I never bought it when some of the referees in the 90s and stuff would, even with the shock pace, they put their hands on their head and they like you said, they overdo it. They oversell it sometimes. I think some of the referees today have gotten a little bit better with that. The arm sweep, I honestly can say as a fan, I don't think that I've noticed that as probably much as you have, since you have worked in the business and been a referee. I can't say that I've noticed that. I will look for it now, though. Because I'm curious about that. And with some referees, I do know, like, you can tell when they're not going to come down for a 3. I have seen that before, but not as I think as frequently as probably as you have seen it, though. So I will definitely start paying attention to that. And the other thing, like you said, the overhyping, the overselling of the maneuvers, the referee, they're not really involved in the action unless there's a pin count or you're counting a 5. As a referee, what should you be doing? How should you act when you're in the ring, when you're not needed? Because there are times in many matches and many promotions where the wrestlers have a great flow going, a great chemistry going, and the referee is just kind of there to waiting until a 3 count happens or until a rope break or something happens. So what should they be doing when the action is flowing nicely and they're not necessarily needed? What should they be doing?
Staying out of the way.
It's just staying out of the way.
They're still part of the story, no matter if the flow is good or whatever. Because 9 times out of 10, they could be flowing back and forth, but you still have that corner count. You still have the rope. If the heel is working as a decent heel, they're going to be choking them. It's all about positioning as a referee. Where are you going to be when those shoulders are on the mat? You want to make sure that you're close by that top of the head so you can check the shoulders and everything else and make a clean count. And, if you're out of position, like I was a lot of the times as a bigger person, because I wanted to stay out of the way.
Yeah.
It just kind of messed up the match a little bit. There was one match where I had to jump over a wrestler and slide to make a pin count. It's really bizarre, the ways that you have to do it.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Referees being out of position when there's a pin count, and you see a referee kind of circling the ring with the wrestlers trying to get ready to drop down for a pinfall. That's not always something that you can help though as a referee, right? I mean,
correct.
Just because the outcomes are predetermined doesn't mean that you guys are all sitting backstage saying, okay, here's what we're going to do first, and then we're going to go to that. Or is it that way?
I can't get too much into it.
Absolutely.
I can only just say that what I normally look for is any specific points that they will need me to do something.
Because certain wrestlers they'll go for pinfalls in their moveset. That'll be part of their moveset where they'll do a power slam and go into the pinfall. That's something that you as a referee could look for, right?
Well, you take a look at Seth Rollins, that when he suplexes someone from the top rope, and then he goes into that Falcon Arrow. Now, any other person, when they see Seth roll, would think pin. But he has to let that ref know, hey, do not drop down for this because I'm going to go for this maneuver next. And it's just, for instance, like Lucha Libre. It's a totally different style than American wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's times when they go down, and a lot of people are like, oh, their shoulders are down. But by the time the ref gets down there, they're already trying to do another pin. So there's some wrestlers that will literally just be like, just stand there, or literally just go to just keep countering each other. And then you're just like, okay. You know, it's all about communication and communication within the ring as well.
I would imagine that is very key, is communication when you're in the ring, between the wrestlers and with the referee. So now let's shift back to the manager conversation here for a minute. I appreciate you talking about a referee. I didn't know that you were a referee. It's great to get some inside information on some of that. Now, as a manager, you see, there's been a lot of different managers throughout the years. Some of them are better than others. Who do you have, like, someone that you try and emulate, or someone that you looked up to for the manager position?
Yeah, I would say yes and no.
Okay.
My favorite manager at the time, I actually got to meet him before he passed, is Bobby Heenan.
Bobby Heenan
is brilliant in the fact of how he can evolve himself from clientele to clientele. My gimmick is, as you can tell, again, by my tapestry behind me, I run something known as the Oliver Mafia International. And associated with that is the Black Clovers. So that's more of a kind of like a mafia gimmick, where, you know, instead of being 100 and like yelling into a microphone and everything, instead it's going to be more of a dark, more of a calm voice.
Yeah.
And the second that that's when I bump up my voice a little bit and just kind of go at you, but then I have someone there just to kind of calm it down a little bit. And, you know, as a mafia boss, I shouldn't be getting bent out of shape so easily.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the one that's supposed to be there and be the leader.
Yeah.
And have my clientele be the assassins, the snipers, whatever you might want to call them.
Yeah, yeah.
If they fail me, they're failing the family type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where if they fail me, I can't just go up to them and just smack them and be like, "Are you stupid?" You know, it's kind of like the kiss of death.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
But it's also got to be believable, right? I mean, you see these managers who like strike, you know, bigger wrestlers and stuff, and when the wrestler doesn't just grab a hold of them and throw them outside the ring, I always find myself wondering, why doesn't he just grab a hold of them and throw them outside the ring? And there's different types. Like there's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Christian Cage and Luchasaurus.
Yeah,
perfect.
That is, Christian Cage and Luchasaurus, who have a great thing going. I mean, I think that's a great example of how a manager can be used to help elevate a wrestler. Because Luchasaurus is not a talker. He's not really a speaker. It doesn't really go with his gimmick. Even if he wanted to talk on the mic, it doesn't really go with his gimmick. So he needs a manager, a mouthpiece, someone to handle the talking for him and stuff. And with Christian Cage, you know, the way he treats him, I like the whole father gimmick and stuff. I mean, I can't wait till Luchasaurus rips his head off. I mean, that's where we all know that's where eventually Luchasaurus and Christian Cage are going to go. They're going to end up wrestling each other. But in the meantime, it's still a great story to watch unfold.
And you just answered your own question there.
I'm sorry?
You answered your own question.
What?
See, Christian Cage is a smaller guy.
Yeah.
And it's Luchasaurus. But in the long run, Luchasaurus is going to get his payback.
Yeah.
So the same thing goes for an actual manager. See, we don't need to have a match in order for it to happen. Like, we can still take bumps and everything. We're not fragile.
Yeah.
So, for instance, who's the big guy locally? Mitch Paradise. He's local here. I go up to him and I manage him, and I smack him. Like, he's like 6 foot something, jacked up. After a while of me smacking him, he's going to lay me out.
Yeah.
And he's going to walk away, and the crowd's going to react to that, because it's like, well, finally he's done with the disrespect of the manager, and he's just finally going to come back to us fans. Is the way you kind of have to look at it. So it's long-term storytelling that has a buy-off. You just kind of have to wait for it.
Yeah. And I guess you're right. I guess I did. And that's with kayfabe being dead, you have to be willing, if you want to enjoy wrestling, you still have to buy into the story. You have to be willing to buy into the story. If you're not buying into the story, I don't really know why you're watching it in the first place. So that is something that I agree with you there. You have to buy into the story, even though you want Luchasaurus to rip Christian Cage's head off. You just got to wait for when it's going to happen. And that's part of the storytelling. How much is he going to take? How much is he going to endure until he finally does reach that point and you get the payoff? I don't mind if you drink on screen, whatever you're drinking, water, beer, booze, doesn't matter. You're free to take a drink on camera. Oh, I see. Well, you're right. I appreciate that. They're not paying me any money for any marketing. So absolutely, if they want to, then they absolutely can.
I can do the whole
Brit can, but
it's like Coca-Cola. Drink it now.
Yeah.
Oh, other guy pay me.
Yeah. Coke with some royalties, absolutely. Well, I think that was about that was a lot of what I wanted to discuss with you. Did you want to go? Where can people find you? Let's talk about that. Where can people find you? Let's promote you for a minute here.
I got a few shows coming up in Minnesota. I got NLW to end my year, and then at the beginning of the year, I have APW over in Wisconsin. I got NWC in Minneapolis, Minnesota. All of this can be found on my Facebook page because it's hard for me to remember the towns and everything.
Make sure you check out his Facebook. He's also on TikTok. Just search Oliver Williams. It's a picture of him wearing a hat. Kind of, he has his head down. So make sure you because there's a couple of Oliver Williams actually when you search on Facebook. But you want to find him. Make sure you look for him. He's the manager. And Wisconsin, Minnesota. That's where the area that you usually operate out of.
Yeah, but I'm open to travel. I'm in 2024. I'm hoping to hit a few new places. I'm also, if you're looking for me on Facebook, look for the Sponsored by Dobie, and that's my page, my Facebook page, to go follow. That way people could find it a little easier.
Okay. That's good to know. Now, actually, real quick before we go then, you, as a wrestler working the independents, they look for dates just like you do. You say you work with a couple of different companies and stuff. Is it more difficult, do you think, as a manager or referee to work the independent circuits than a wrestler?
100%. I've been trying to get into a local promotion as a manager, and they have like 3 or 4 managers right now, so it kind of defeats the purpose of trying to get in there. I love traveling. I have a tag team that I normally hang out with that would love to travel every now and again, I'm pretty sure. And it's just one of those things where the timing has to be right for me to go out there and for everything to kind of work together. As a referee is easy to train and easy to come by. And unfortunately, that's just how the business works. Minnesota used to be like hard to find a referee, but since the academy opened, they have like 5 or 6 in this area now where it's just constantly a rotating door. Right now we have 4 or 5 managers that rotate in and out. So it all depends on how good you are and how well you look the part.
I see. Now, how many managers do now? Independent promotions are obviously likely different than a WWE or an AEW. But I never thought about that. You would have to think about you can only afford probably to keep so many financially managers who aren't performers in the ring. Do you think that plays into it?
I think it does, and plus you have to think a lot of the managers do the same old shtick where it's suit coat or a dress shirt and a tie. Nothing really sets them apart. That's part of the reason why I came up with the whole mafia gimmick, is it separates me from the pack. You get people who have like that kind of just look like a business person.
Yeah.
Paul Heyman.
Yeah, the typical, Paul Heyman, yes. A lot of people try and pull off the Paul Heyman gimmick and look, they're not as good at it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. It's the typical manager, he's dressed in a suit, maybe he carries a phone on him or something like that, or he has a magazine or a newspaper rolled up, circa Paul Elrig with the Legion of Doom. But I think those, I don't think they go very far. I don't think people buy into those as much, like you were saying. I don't think the generic manager isn't really, nobody really wants to see that anymore.
Actually, there is one guy who's been around for quite some time, Sylvester J. Fox, who works for Below Zero Wrestling, is his main place. And he's the guy that I kind of looked up to when I was trying to do a lot of management stuff. He would help me give me a few pointers here and there, and just be like, hey, I would do this instead of do this. And that's where my original gimmick came from. Where I was like, oh, well, maybe instead of a golf club, I'll have a baseball bat, because I always end up leaning on something. Because when you're standing there and you're moving and everything, you want something to kind of lean on.
Yeah, prop.
Because
yeah,
it goes hand in hand with cheating and everything else. So after debating the baseball bat, I went with the cane. So now I have a cane that comes out with me. So instead of having a baseball bat where I can pretend like I'm hitting someone's head for a home run, now I can pull the rope because the cane has a hook.
Yeah.
Now I can hook the leg. There's do with that than just a baseball bat where you can throw it in when you need to.
Yeah. I always imagined that if I ever became a wrestling manager, I would use a cane, and just because I think it would be humorous to see a guy in a wheelchair come out from behind the curtain with a cane as well. I think that would give me something unique there. So I appreciate the cane part of it. I think that works well with a lot of style of gimmicks. The cane can be versatile, so I think it's a better prop to have than a ball bat or even a golf club. So I think you probably made the right decision with that.
Well, Sylvester has a golf club, and he finds unique ways of using it. I do give him that, but me personally, I could not find a unique way of incorporating a golf club that people won't look at me and be like, Sylvester did it better.
Yeah. I can understand that. And that's the other thing too. When you take an idea or when you get coached by somebody or get advice somebody, you still have to kind of find your own thing, right? You can't just straight up copy what someone else does. It's not going to work for you. People won't buy. The wrestling fans, despite all their flaws, they usually don't accept you recycling a gimmick or copying directly from somebody else. You can take inspiration from somebody, but you can't just straight up copy someone's gimmick or someone's style.
When I work, I try to find people to pick on purpose, because then 9 times out of 10 I'm main event. So I come out with my clientele for the main event. So during intermission, I sneak through the curtain. What I do then is I find 4 or 5 people. They wear baseball hats. So I'll take their hat, I'll literally throw it across the gym. And I'll go to the next person. I'll take their hat. I'll put it on someone else. It's little things like that that, they kind of look and it's just like, I really hate that guy. Well, that's the purpose.
Yeah.
You're supposed to not. I took a bag of chips that a kid was trying to offer me chips. I dumped it directly over his head. I got a bottle of water thrown at me, a full bottle of water. I picked it up and I said, "Oh, gee, thanks." Walked away, opened it, and sprayed it all over the kids. It's little things that you do that other people won't go that far. But you have to learn when to reel it back.
Yeah.
So I like to push the envelope a little bit. And then after the show, I was trying to find the kid that I stuffed his bag of chips to buy him new ones.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but it's little things like that. Like during the show, I'm Oliver Williams.
Yeah.
I'm a-hole. You're not supposed to like. But afterwards, I'm myself. Let me buy you that bag of chips I dumped over your head. Because at the end of the day, they came to see the wrestling, and they're the reason that I get paid.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you put on a. Go ahead.
It's one of those things where I just kind of have to say thank you to them.
Yeah. Well, it's hard being everybody said, who doesn't like being a bad guy, right? Bad guys have more fun. But if you're a good person, then being a bad guy can, I would imagine, take its toll on you. You know what I mean? Like you said, dumping a bag of chips on a kid's head, spraying kids with water. If you don't get a chance to say, "Hey, I'm sorry, kid, I'm playing a part," if you don't get a chance to connect with them, then I can see how that may eventually weigh on you, being the bad guy and not being able to make recompense or whatever. I can see how that could weigh on you, though. That's got to be the difficult thing for being a bad guy, right? Is being mean to people, but then not letting them see who you really are.
The funniest thing is that kid will come back.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Of course he'll come back.
So
he probably told everybody.
Right.
Yeah,
I got punched, food thrown at me, cans of soda thrown at me, a bottle of water thrown at me. It was nuts. And they just hated me. But that kid will be back.
Yeah.
I'll buy him his bag of chips either before or after the show. If it's before the show, he'll probably offer me some, and the same thing will happen. Yeah. You want to be able, even if you can't say, "Hey, I'm just playing a character here." 9 times out of 10, they know that.
Yeah.
But they'll come back because you interacted with them.
Yeah, exactly.
When most people won't.
Yeah, that is one thing. The rest interaction with the fans, I think, really does put you, I think, ahead of the curve. Because while you do see lots of wrestlers, lots of managers, they do interact with the fans, there are still wrestlers. And I don't mean just like playing a heel, like they're playing a part, and so they don't want to high five any fans or let any of the fans touch them. But a lot of wrestlers just walk right down the center of the entranceway. They don't do any fan interaction. They'll look out, they'll wave or something, but there's very little fan interaction. And I never understood that. Heel, face, you have to interact with the crowd. You need that part of it. If you're not, then you're just going out there to put on a show, and you're not going to get as far as you might if you did some fan interaction.
So I was holding dual belts, and a kid was like right next to me. And I ended up like adjusting the belts, and I elbowed the kid in the face. I looked back, and I just see the kid like this. I look at the kid, I'm like, "Well, then get out of my way." But after the show, I went up to the kid, I'm like, "You okay?" And she's like, "That was by far the funnest thing I've ever done." And I'm like, "Well, that's a good thing. Just to let you know, I do apologize for that."
Yeah.
And I apologize to your parents if you have a black eye tomorrow, because I know I hate you kind of hard because I didn't see you there because you're like up to my head.
Yeah.
So
now let me say
for that show now.
Yeah. But again, like you said, the fans, 9 times, especially with kids, they know it's a show, and that's what they, if you dump water on them, you accidentally bump them, you accidentally hit them, they're going to go and brag tomorrow. They're going to be like, look at my eye. That's likely what's going to happen. So let me ask you one last thing before we get ready to wrap up then. And that's from a performer standpoint. You talked about how you do crowd interaction, you'll throw water, or, you'll dump chips out or whatever. Where do you draw the line the other way with fans? What if a fan threw water on you?
I actually have had that happen.
And
at that same.
And how do you react to that? I mean, of course you're going to react. You're going to play the show. So you're going to react as the heel and stuff. But on a personal level, do you have a problem with that? Are you offended if someone throws water at you or anything like that? Are you like, get that person out of the show? Like, kick him out of the arena for doing that? Like, because it is, isn't it? I mean, in most arenas, if you throw water, if you throw bottles, if you throw something like that, and a security sees you, you're getting escorted out of the building.
I like it, but I dislike it. And there's two different ways to go about this. I can always dry clean my stuff. It only costs me like probably $30 to get the whole entire thing dry clean. Not that big of a deal. Just don't throw water in the ring. That's when I get heated. That's when, the irritated real me comes out.
So the ring is where you draw the line. Like, okay, throw water on me, dump chips on me, whatever, throw crumbled up newspaper, but keep it out of the ring.
Correct. It's all about safety. The show that the fan threw the water in the ring, I made sure to go like face to face with the person. Like, you do not do that. Get back, get to your seat. I don't want to even see you. Because the mat itself, some mats are fabric, but this one wasn't. So it was a slip hazard. When you're working lucha, you have to be able to do fast pace.
Yeah.
Water gets on the rope, water gets on the mat, and the wrestler and the partner could easily slip. That's just bad news all in general. I don't care if people throw stuff at me. Heck, I'll even throw stuff back.
Yeah.
Just don't put it in unless if it's like before the match where it's like the little streamers or whatever, show your support that way. Just don't throw food, drinks, beer bottles, none of that crap into the ring. Plus it costs a fortune to clean those mats. Like, it costs me $30. It might cost the promoter like $100 to $150 to clean that mat.
Yeah.
Depending on if it reps, because High Spots sells them for like $300, depending on if it's customized or not. So it's one of those things where I'd rather pay my $30 to get things clean than have the promoter irritated and grumpy because of the fact that his mat got torn to crap.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's great. So if you're a fan and you want to interact with the wrestlers or the managers, do so. Keep it out of the ring, which I, completely agree with. The squared circle has a kind of a sacred, keep the trash out of it. That's where the wrestlers perform. You see wrestlers, they wipe their feet before they get in the ring. You know what I mean? And it's not just like you said, it's a safety hazard. And that's why you see wrestlers wipe their feet before they get in the ring. They wipe it on the apron before they step in the ring. It's to get their boots wiped off. They don't want to slip and fall. And that's also why the referees get involved in matches for safety purposes. That's why they'll hold a ladder or move a table if it got bumped out of position because the ring could bounce or something. Or maybe they reached up and held on to a wrestler or gave him a push. There's a clip out there of Jericho saving somebody who was about to fall on his head, and he ran over, pushed him, and saved him from landing on his head and breaking his neck. It's about safety, and whatever the referees or the wrestlers are doing to prevent someone else from being seriously injured, I'm all for. I'm a fan, and I don't care about, I care about the show, but I'd never at the expense of someone's safety. So that's obviously important. Yeah, please.
And that I just want to get through to some wrestling fans. It doesn't matter if you like WWE. It doesn't matter if you like AEW. No show is better than the other. Everyone has different tastes. Let's just enjoy professional wrestling the way it's freaking meant to be. I'm so sick of AEW versus WWE in my Facebook comments and everything else. It doesn't matter. If you're happy CM Punk's back with WWE, good. If you're mad because you're a fan of AEW and you see CM Punk on WWE, Facebook don't care. No one else cares.
If I can add a third option, in there, if you're out there and you're someone like me who doesn't give a crap about CM Punk and is so tired of hearing about CM Punk, then just continue to ignore it, because eventually he will go away, as he always does. I'm not a CM Punk fan, and I think all this stuff about AEW and WWE and with CM Punk is the most ridiculous thing I've ever witnessed in my life. And I mainly because I'm not a CM Punk fan. I think it's better for AEW that they got rid of Punk. I think it's better for them as an organization. Look what happened to WCW. Let me finish, and then I will let you comment. Look what happened to WCW when you had people like Scott Hall and Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan who didn't want to who had deals catered around them. Collision was created for CM Punk. Tony Khan already started doing what he shouldn't have been doing, and that is catering around the talent. Don't do that. I don't care. I love, if Jericho left AEW, if Sting left AEW, well, he's retiring. If Darby Allin, I mean, I have fan favorites in AEW that I really enjoy. If they left and went to another organization, I would be upset about that. I want to see him on AEW, but I don't want. CM Punk is not good for business. He's not good for the organization. AEW is better off without him. If WWE can clearly handle him, they've handled him before. I don't have a problem with him being back in WWE. On a personal level, I don't get the hype. I don't get CM Punk. I don't get the whole gimmick. I don't get the shtick. Kayfabe is dead. You can't play a rebellious anti-establishment character on screen and then turn around and go bitch and whine to the higher ups when you're not on screen. That's the problem I have a problem with CM Punk. That's why I don't like CM Punk. That's why I don't buy anything from CM Punk. I will take the fact that I'm in the majority. And I even had somebody explain it to me. Wrestling with Heart with Stanley Carr. I had him on an episode, and I said, he was a CM Punk fan. I said, explain it to me. He said, well, it helps if you just buy into the character. And I get that. Yeah, he's an anti-establishment, Stone Cold style type character, but I'm not willing to buy into that. Kayfabe is dead. You can't be an anti-establishment and then go complain and whine to the higher ups because people aren't doing what you want to do, and you don't want to work with this person. You don't want to put that person over. Hogan's gone. So should CM Punk. That way of thinking is over in wrestling. It's over. Get out. That's my opinion. And rant over. Oliver, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, really quick. The only anti-established person I can kind of see being more like Stone Cold, LA Knight. So that, I don't know what Punk's shtick is, but it sure the hell isn't that anymore. But what's your thoughts on Brian Pillman Jr. and his gimmick for NXT?
I didn't get a chance to see him in NXT yet. I'm glad he got to NXT. I think I'd like to see him. I was a kind of a Brian Pillman fan. I think he understood the psychology of wrestling in a different way, and I think he could have been a real big star, had things not happened. One thing I've noticed with Offspring is don't ever count your chickens. Just because you're the son of a great wrestler does not mean that you're going to capture that same kind of fire that your parents had. I think he needs something. I don't know. I didn't get a chance to see him in NXT, so I don't know if that's going to pay off for him. But I know what he was doing in AEW wasn't working. The whole Hollywood blonde style thing with Julia Hart. I'm so glad Julia Hart went to the House of Black. So amazing. She's got such an amazing career ahead of her. And I think going to the House of Black is exactly what she needed to do. And I think Brian Pillman Jr. needs something like that. Not necessarily a dark character or anything. He needs something. And I don't know what that is, but until he finds that something, I think he's still gonna be struggling. But he needs something. I think he's good, but I think he needs something. The way Julia Hart found with the House of Black, I think he needs to find his own something that catches fire.
See, Julia Hart's a local talent. She came from Minnesota. I got to meet her a few times. She's a sweetheart. Pillman Jr., if I can kind of, his NXT run right now is a little bit shaky. I watched his match with Carmelo Hayes, and it was good, but they still implemented his dad. Now, my father does ring stuff. So before I started, he was already doing that. So now that I was known as Yerke's son. And if there's anything anyone can do, it's try to get away from who your parents are. Make your own way in life. Because that's the only way you're going to succeed, and that's the only way deep down inside you're going to feel accomplishment. Is by doing it by yourself.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Charlotte Flair may be the only exception with that. And, I think it's different when you're talking about father-daughter than you are with father-son. I think that's I think people see that differently. And even Charlotte Flair she didn't take on, Becky Lynch took on the man gimmick. Charlotte Flair didn't take on the man gimmick. Becky Lynch stole the man gimmick. So in a way, she did kind of change up from her dad a little bit.
Charlotte never wanted to wrestle at first. She didn't do it because of that. She did it because her brother passed away and she wanted to feel closer.
Both of her brothers.
Yes, Yes, she's using the woo gimmick. Yes, she's coming out with a cloak and everything. I think if Charlotte had a say, she may or may not do that. But at the same exact time, Ric Flair is Ric Flair. Everyone knows Terry Hogan's kids. Just like everyone knows Ric Flair's kids. Just like everyone knows if Ultimate Warrior had kids, who his kids would be. Roddy Piper, his daughter is wrestling. Everyone knows that. Eddie Guerrero's daughter is wrestling. Everyone knows that. It's because when you get to a certain... Yeah, that was me. Give me a quick second.
You're good. Go ahead. If I can real quick, I was going to say The Rock was somebody who tried to imitate his dad, who tried to take on his dad's mannerisms and his dad's style, and the people were not buying it. He did not become a star until he became The Rock. Rocky Maivia wasn't going anywhere. He was never going to reach that beyond that intercontinental stratosphere. But once he became The Rock, he became his own person and added to the legacy. That's what you need to do. You need to find a way to... You can't follow directly in your parents' footsteps. If you become a wrestler, you have to have your own gimmick. And then by extension, you add to the legacy of your parents' gimmicks.
Yeah.
I love all of that information. I'd love to have you on again. Or do you want to have more? You have more to say? Go ahead.
Actually, no, I think I'm good.
Oh, yeah, you're having a mic issue. Since you're having a mic issue, since you're having a mic issue, we should probably get ready to call it there anyway. And I'd love to have you on again. Let's do this again. I'm always looking for regular guests and for repeat guests. So let's please have you on again. I loved I just learned a lot from this conversation with you, and I hope some of our viewers did as well. And if you're in the Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota area, I'm sorry, say it again.
In Minnesota.
In the Minnesota area. Not in Michigan. Okay, not in Michigan. So just if you're in the Minnesota area, look for Oliver Williams. Go to an independent show. Look for him. Tell him that you saw him on Mayhem Media and that you're a fan. And go follow him on Facebook and on TikTok. Just search Oliver Williams, and I'm sure you can find him. He's on Facebook and on TikTok. So, and leave him a message. Leave him a comment and let him know Mayhem Media sent you. We want to get our name out there as well, and try and continue to grow this show and reach more people. So please share this episode out. Our storefront, bonfire.com/store/JDE Designs. That's with a Z at the end of it. You can also pick up some Mayhem Media apparel from that storefront. For Oliver Williams. One more last thing. Marcus Fredrickson does our music. He plays us in and out of every episode on Mayhemtainment. Please go check him out. ReverbNation.com/Marcus Fredrickson. Share out your favorite song. For Oliver Williams, thank you very much for being on. I am your host, JD, and that's the end.